Good morning and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert. And you are with the Sensational Six. However, we're also the Fabulous Five because William Conway will not be with us today. And today is a very special day for us because we have the man who taught us everything we know about being ministers. And today's a day that we're going to share a lot of memories, a lot of joy, a lot of fun, and of course, a lot of inspiration. And so, as we always do, let us begin with prayer. I invite you just to close your eyes and relax into this space and just take a nice breath of air in. And as we exhale, let us just become very present to where we are in this sacred space, in this beautiful, beautiful opportunity that is here for us to jump into conversation, into life expressing itself so beautifully by each person who is here today. And so I'm grateful to open this space to recognize that there is only one thing happening here, and that is the expression of spirit. Knowing that all are one, all beings are one in the mind of God and the wholeness of life, expressing easily and effortlessly that which is within each one to express. And so I know right here and right now, there's a lot of expressing going on. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of inspiration. There's a lot of peace and there's a lot of laughter. And so I'm grateful to connect with all who are joining this beautiful circle today, knowing that in this space, there's such great enlightenment, such great spiritual community coming together to celebrate life, to celebrate the ability to be able to connect in this way and just to continue rising up and being that authentic that each person is. And so knowing this is an absolute blessing to be here today, I know everything is unfolding easily and effortlessly. And so knowing it's time to get started, I release my word now as law, knowing it is absolutely done, as we say together, and so
it is. Well, and I'm very excited because I get to introduce our guest. Out of this group, I've probably known him the longest. I've been studying with Dr. James for 13 years before ministerial. Dr. James is the spiritual director of the Global Truth Center Los Angeles, and he founded the NoHo Art Center for New Thought in 2003, which later became the Global Truth Center with a simple idea: enlightenment through entertainment, which made complete sense because he has a background as a Broadway star. I think he's our first guest who was an actual star, and I'm sure he'll be happy to tell you more about that as we go forward. He's also an author. He has a book out called Mental Muscle: 16 Weeks of Spiritual Boot Camp, which is transforming. He is currently working on his next book, The 5 Questions, which he has introduced the 5 questions at the Global Truth Center more than once. And I got to say, they are mind and heart opening. So I am so looking forward to this book being released. And again, I'm sure he'd be willing to tell us a little about it. And not only is he the star of stage, but also screen, because, you know, those two things kind of go together. He has a show called The Inner View. And oh my goodness, if that wasn't enough, you know, we do teach we are unlimited in energy. And he's also the founder of Welcome Om, which is a new experience of what we teach. It brings it to a whole new generation, free of dogma. It is just being in the experience of oneness. It's an amazing new endeavor, which I am so excited to see explode out in the world and bring our teaching out in a way that is unbound. And lastly, but definitely most importantly, now I know that's a lot, but this is the most important thing he's done in his life. He is our ministerial teacher and mentor. And he connects us to Ernest Holmes in just a few short steps. Ernest Holmes taught Robert Bitzer, who taught Dr. Walker, who taught Dr. James, who then passed the torch and lit our hearts on fire with this teaching, and charged us with going out into the world to take it forward. And so with that, that is Dr. James Mellon. Welcome to our show, Dr. James. We're so excited to have you here.
I'm like all emotional. First, I'm exhausted that I did all that. Yeah, but I'm just, it really is very emotional. You know, when you think about Ernest Holmes and you think about, you know, in the 1940s and 50s, as he was building a new church, they did call it a church, but as he created religious science, the organization, you know, he was teaching Robert Bitzer. He had his students that he was excited about, and Robert Bitzer was one of the big ones. And he gave Robert Bitzer Hollywood and basically said, why don't you go in and create the church in Hollywood, California? And so he did. He created the Hollywood Church of Religious Science, where he taught a young Las Vegas singer. You know, Dr. David Walker was this tall, skinny, very handsome Las Vegas lounge boy who heard him speak and then suddenly took the teaching and decided he wanted to be a minister and became a minister. And then this Broadway actor comes out to Hollywood to do a new show, which I was doing in Hollywood. And my best friend said, why don't you come hear my minister speak? And I was like an Eric Butterworth nut. I spent all my time at Unity with Eric Butterworth. And I was like, yeah, I'll come hear him speak because I haven't found a good Unity out here that works for me. And I heard David Walker speak, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I believe. And then I just got hooked and stayed here and kept flying back and forth to New York and LA. And then I was in Texas running a theater. And I think you all know this. When I was taking ministerial, I was the artistic director of the Water Tower Theater in Dallas, Texas. And I would fly to Dallas on Tuesday, be in Dallas all the way until Sunday's matinee, fly home and be in a ministerial class on Monday night. And that went on for a year and a half. So whenever people say to me, you know, it's so hard to get to class, I'm like, really? Try flying in from Texas. So, but then you think about it, then I became a minister. So it's just, you're right, Ernest Holmes, Robert Bitzer, David Walker, me, and now you. And I have to say, and I'm not saying this just because you're all here, I honestly think that this particular ministerial class was the greatest class in that entire line, in that entire lineage. I think you guys have the right, the power, and the provocative insight to take this teaching where it needs to go, not just reiterate what the teaching was in 1927, but to take it where it's going. And that's what's different about this ministerial class than any other classes I've taught. So that's my long-winded answer to that.
Well, thank you. And every week we introduce ourselves in a new way, either through a quote or whatever book we're reading. And this week we thought, so that we can include Dr. James, we'd introduce ourselves by sharing our favorite memory of our ministerial training. And there's so many. We're going to kick off with Dale.
Thank you, Lori. Well, it was really hard to figure out what my very favorite moment was, but I think I'm going to have to say that class that we had during our paneling week, the very first class that we had on Monday, where we had Dr. Angela and we had all the different ministers talking to us, that to me just brought everything together, because preparing for that final week, I felt like I was kind of all over the place and just so filled with just nervous energy and kind of being unfocused. But that Monday, first of all, after Dr. Angelo spoke, it's like everything just got totally grounded for me, because I remembered why I was there. I was kind of not remembering, what am I doing here? And he just pulled it all together so simply when he was talking about love and consciousness. It's like, yeah, that's just what this is about. I don't need to complicate this. It's just about love and consciousness. And then all the other ministerial speakers that we had, they kind of just set the stage for, this is what you're walking into. And it was so comforting to me. And it was just what I needed to hear to take the next steps for the week to unfold. So as there were so many other things during class, because the other thing I really loved was when I was personally down in Studio City to attend class in person. Every class I attended when I was down there just had a certain magic to it, because I was in the energy of everybody and Dr. James. And it was so beautiful and wonderful, because collectively, even though you still have your connection virtually, but when you're in it physically with everybody, it's so powerful and it's so wonderful. And it's just all about love and expansion. And I loved being connected with everybody physically. So that was the other highlight of ministerial class, was when I was down there and with everybody and really just experiencing the beautiful minds that were in our class. And so that's what I have to say. I'm going to pass it over to Gail.
Thank you, Dale. So good morning. My name is Gail Morton, and I am so excited that you're here with us today with our very special guest, Dr. James Mellon. And it was actually pretty easy for me to decide what special memory I wanted to share today, because one of my most memorable experiences in ministerial training was witnessing one of my cherished cohort members remembering who she is, remembering that no matter what, as a divine light, as a perfect child of God, that she can never be anything less than the most brilliant person on this planet. You see, this amazing student joined our ministerial class at the end of our first year, and she came in from another very highly reputed program. But as classmates, we had all already gelled. We were very connected, and as you might guess, we were all rowing in the same direction, having already discovered so many amazing truths together. We all knew our new cohort was brilliant, totally remarkable in every single way, and that this individual would grow into an amazing minister. However, I observed her struggling while participating. Whether she was answering questions or providing a point of view or maybe adding a perspective that was all her own. And right up into and really through our final review before our final written exam, I observed this absolutely amazing student struggling to remember her divine nature. And really broadly, that is what ministry is all about. That is what we learned, is remembering who you are. Remembering your divine nature so that we can then know the divine truth about each and every person that trusts us to walk with them as ministers, as practitioners, and as spiritual counselors. So you see, as a minister, I can only embrace a consciousness for you that is as high and as unlimited as the one that I actually hold for myself. So in our final week as ministerial students, this absolutely remarkable student woke up and she remembered who she was. She woke up to realize that who she is no less and can never be any less brilliant than the most dazzling person on the planet. And actually, this was always the truth of who she is. And we all knew it. But like all of us, it was her journey to discover her truth and to wake up and live it. No one could do it for her. And I actually share this fond memory with you today because really of the cherished place it holds in my heart, seeing this all take place. And also for all of you to know that this is the truth that we all absolutely know about you. So thanks for listening to my cherished memory, and I'm going to pass it along to Cheryl.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Guess. When I think about ministerial training, and it gets me a little mushy, I guess is the word, but it was more of a thing that went on from the beginning of our class. Unfortunately, Dr. James lost his beloved Nora, his daughter, just a few weeks into our class. And when I heard of course, it broke our hearts. It did, but I figured we'd be out or we wouldn't have class for a month or two, just to let everything heal for James and Dr. James and for, us too. But that's not what happened. This man gave me the most powerful lesson ever by walking the walk. Not just the talk, but walking the walk. And he came back, he was powerful, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. How he handled it. And I'm sorry I get a little mushy, but he showed me what integrity and intention and walking in the truth, not just voicing it and speaking it, but living it and embodying it and being that man. And that was one of the most powerful things, not just from this ministerial class, from any of this teaching I have ever witnessed. And every week I would just be almost speechless at first, just seeing how he didn't let us down at all. He was even more powerful, I believe. And I think that that's why this class came out like we did, because we got to see what it is to walk the walk. And we talk about that, oh, treat, move your feet, all this stuff. This man is that. And that's what, to me, was the most fabulous thing about that class. And I'm sorry if I'm trying not to do white women tears now, so, but it was beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. James, for everything you've given me. It's been fabulous journey. Thank you for the beautiful ride all the way through. There were times when I was like, oh, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. And invariably, the energy, he would say, Cheryl. I was like, oh, crap, here we go. But he was such a powerful teacher. But to be that man was even more powerful. To be the man that really knows the truth of what we are and who we are and lives it fully, boldly, adventurously, everything. I mean, it was just such a powerful, powerful thing for me. So I'm now going to, after I wipe off my paper here, I'm going to turn it over to Brad.
Thanks, Cheryl. Very, very sweet. And it reminds me what I said last week, to want to inspire to be an expression. And Dr. James is a practicing religious scientist, and it shows up all the time, regardless of the joy or challenges in his life. And as I see your picture, your life, Dr. James. So trying to summarize a couple of years, it's still the first night was still the key thing for me. I did the opening prayer for class, and I did a prayer, and his students and he had been expressing prayer a little differently. Some may think it's semantics, some may think it's essence, but really doesn't matter. But what I saw my upcoming teacher do is he listened to it. A couple students go, oh, and he said, well, da 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 da, and he said, but you know what? I think I'm going to look at that again to see. And the bottom line of what I'm trying to express is that he heard me do it a certain way, and though he felt and believed and had his intention of it's a certain way, when he heard a slight tweaking difference, he wanted to be open to that. And just hearing an experience of decades teacher saying, this is the way I do it, but I'm going to be open to something new or expanded, that was it. That was so impressed me. And it's still, 2 years later, still impresses me now, the energy behind that. And how sweet Dr. James showed up for the next couple of years for me was he'd say, here's what I want, make it your own. And however I showed up doing that, we won't talk about some of those, he graciously would help me tweak it and expand it and deepen it so I could grasp whatever was on the plate a little deeper. So that's my thank you, Dr. James. Hey, Lori, what's your favorite
Wow.
key part or memory?
All of those memories just brought so much love up for me. So much love for Dr. James and the gift that he gave us. As Cheryl said, I've known him now 14 years, and I can honestly say he is a practicing religious scientist. I have seen cancer come up, the loss of his daughter. Nothing. He does not step off of principle for even special occasions. And he lives it so beautifully and lightly. I think that is one of my favorite memories, which is kind of a silly one. But one day there was a debate, and it was a very, we had a pretty powerful class full of some very powerful people who I'm sure we drove him crazy at times. And there was a debate at the end of before our break, and it was going back and forth, and it was getting really, and we took our break, and they muted us who were online. And when we came back, you could see that the debate had picked up on the break. And they were in front of the camera, and we're all online going, unmute, unmute, because we want to hear what's happening in the room. So we go back into class begins, and there's a deep breath. And Dr. James said, and this is after being very adamant about his point of view. He said, you know, I've thought about it, and I think you're right, to the other student, who then said, oh my God, I thought about it, and I think you're right. And I just thought, this is what I love about studying with Dr. James. Nothing is written in stone. Everything is available to look at, to massage, to be with. He's interested in what we have to say, in our point of view. And but yet a strong leader. And that is an amazing balancing act, to know what you know and to be very strong in your leadership, but yet still allow people their point of view and not dismiss it because it doesn't fit right away, but to continue to look at it and find a way to empower everybody going forward. To me, that was just a moment of, yes, this is why I love studying with this man. So, whew, Dr. James, your favorite memory of ministerial?
Oh, that was quite something to listen to be honest. First, I just want to say thank you, Cheryl. Because truthfully, I don't very often think about how this class began. I don't often think about what it was to have to step back into class a week. I know my daughter passed on a Thursday, and I came back to class the following Thursday. But I will say that this class saved me that year, because I had to do it, because I knew that if I stepped out, I wouldn't step back in. If I took a step out, which many people told me I should, and just, including Dr. Joe, who basically said you need to take the rest of this year off but I knew that wasn't the answer for me. The answer for me was get steeped even more in principle. Stick with the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so thank you for reminding me of that, those early days. And everything every one of you said, as you talked about Reverend Kirby, Gail, as you talked about Reverend Kirby's journey, that was a great journey to watch, and Brad, I totally remember the day, that first treatment. And in my head, I'm like, and I knew all of my students were there going, oh my God, he just said we, he just said us, he just boom, 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 all the things that I am like a hawk on them when I'm training them. But what they didn't understand at the time was, yeah, all that's important. And we do all that as a teacher. But at the end of the day, it's the consciousness that heals. It's the consciousness that knows. And your consciousness was so clear. You could have read, the phone book in Swahili, and the consciousness still would have been there. So, so it's always good to remember that. So, all of the wonderful things you guys are saying. Of course, I remember the fight with Reverend Tiffany, and it wasn't a discussion, it was a fight. And it was quite intense, and we went on the break. But then, there's a moment where you just go, wait, what is she saying? I know what I was saying, but what is she saying? And then it's like, well, okay, yeah, I guess I can see that. And it was funny that when I finally came back and said, I think I guess I can see what you're saying. She's like, I just figured out you were right. It was very funny. So yes, that was a great moment. All these moments you guys have come up with have been really great moments. And I agree with you, Dale. Dr. Angelo, if I ever had any question about being on the faculty of the Emerson Theological Institute, that day, listening to Dr. Angelo speak, all questions went away, because I suddenly realized he is the living embodiment of love only. And that is my entire ministry, love only. So forgive everything, remember who you are. So that was just great. All of your things were great. So for me, there are so many, just like all of you, in 2 years with a group of students. But for me, my greatest memory was the day of the 10-minute talks. Just try not to cry, because as a teacher, you always want for the best. You want the best for your students. And you just don't know. I mean, you just don't know. It's like when you train actors and then they go out and they get on stage and you're like, oh my God, I didn't plan any of that, you know, or they freeze, or they don't remember what we rehearsed. I remember once I was doing my one and only, and I was starring in my one and only, and my leading lady was really scared. She was afraid. She was very intimidated playing opposite me, because I had just starred in Jesus Christ Superstar that she had seen. And she was like, the whole time during rehearsal, she was like so enamored and nervous. And I was like, you better calm down, because you're in every scene with me. And, you know, we have to do all the singing and dancing. And we got on stage for the number, I don't know if you know the show, but we got on stage for the number where you literally tap dance in water. And there's this big set that comes on, and I'm there in little shorts and a tank top and tap dancing in water. And she looked up at me, and we were about to start singing, my one and only, what am I gonna do if you turn? And it was just, no, not that one. We were singing Swonderful. Swonderful, marvelous. So anyway, she looks at me, and all I can see on her face is, I don't know where we are. I don't know who I am. I don't know what the lyrics are. And I could see it. And there's 1,000 people in the audience. And so I just took her hand and sang her whole verse for her, and then started leading her through the tap dance. So these things happen. And so, you know, you are not in control. I'm not in control of Lori or Gail or Dale or Cheryl or Brad. I'm just, once I let you go, I have no idea what you're going to say. So that day, sitting back in the back of the Global Truth Center, and everybody gets up on stage and they start, you know, every person was a gulp for me. It was like, okay, let's see. Even the ones that I knew, I mean, I knew all of you were going to be fine. But even the ones that I thought were like acing it, sometimes they're the ones that get up there and surprise you by blowing it. So one after another, I was watching a cavalcade of brilliant minds speak this science in their own unique way. Not one person faltered in any way, shape, or form. Not one. There was a moment, and maybe my favorite moment of that day. So that's my favorite day. I was just sitting back there cavelling, and just tears were flowing, and every person was just brilliant, and they were their own brilliance, you know? And then William, sorry he's not here today, when he had that epiphany in the middle of his talk, but it didn't look like an epiphany. It looked like that girl that played opposite me suddenly forgot everything he was about to say, and he just stopped. And he went, huh, remember that moment? I'm sure many of you were like, oh no, oh no. And then he went, I just had this epiphany, and changed his talk in that moment based on what came through him, which is the exact thing this whole 2 years was about. Can you be spontaneous enough to let that inspiration in you come through, even though you knew what you were about to say? Dr. Bitzer used to say, never let the title of your talk interfere with the talk you're about to give, right? And there are many people that take a title of a talk and then just tell you what the talk is. And you're just like, man, I'm just too boring. Well, William, that was just, I was like, oh my God, he got it. I felt like Henry Higgins. I think he got it. It was just amazing. So that was really my favorite, the culmination of all of this in those 10-minute talks. And we're now editing them all so that you all have your own little 10-minute talk. We're calling them the 10 talks, right? Yeah, that's mine. There you go.
Oh, that was an amazing day. And I was sobbing while William was up there. I mean, the tears were just flowing when I saw that electricity just come through him in that pause. And I didn't think he was lost. I didn't think I knew. I could see it coming through him. It was an amazing moment. I think I had tears in my eyes for every single person who got up. And I was so grateful I was one of the first ones so I could sit back and relax and just savor everybody else's talk. So, Dr. James, would you like to start out by telling us a little bit about your new book, The Five Questions?
Sure.
That would, I know a little bit, but for our audience.
No, absolutely. So all of these students know that I am the type of teacher that teaches from the hip, meaning I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to teach tonight, but I'm sure it will be good. I have a plan. I mean, I don't just step in there and go, hey, what do you want to talk about tonight? I have an outline, but I never know how that outline is going to take shape. So we were doing a retreat. I was doing a retreat for our Center for Global Truth Center, a practitioner retreat. And we were going to a place called Casa de Maria. I was brought to Casa de Maria to see if this was the right place for our first retreat. And I was like, this is Catholic. I said, there are Blessed Mother statues everywhere. I'm feeling a little conspicuous. And then we walked into the chapel and Jesus, I mean, like 100-foot Jesus on a cross was the first thing I see. And I was like, I'm not sure this is where I want to be in my spiritual practice. It's just a little too, and then there's all the stations of the cross, and if you don't know what that is, if you're not Catholic, it's just every horrible ordeal Jesus went through all the way through. Sometimes there's 13 and they put in the resurrection, which would be a nice idea because it's like the only positive part of it. But anyway, so there's all of this stuff and I'm like, and everybody else, Caressa and Reverend Nancy, and the people that were there, they were like, we love it here. I'm like, do you? Must be because you're all women and I'm a man, and maybe we do have that Mars and Venus thing going on here, which I don't usually subscribe to. So I said, you know what, I need time. I'm going to go sit under a tree and think. You guys can go keep looking at the grounds. And I went and sat under a tree. And underneath that tree, suddenly I was like, oh yeah, this is the right place. Come on, you grew up Catholic. You know what the crucifix means and all that stuff. So I agreed to do it. And what came to me was the title of our retreat. Give me your heart. I will hold it for you. And so they come back to me. They go, so what do you think? I said, we're going to do it here. And the title of the retreat is Give Me Your Heart. I Will Hold It For You. And Reverend Nancy went, oh, I love that. Wrote it down. That was it. We had a great retreat. We decided to do next year's retreat there. We come back the following year. And Nancy says to me, and it's maybe 20 minutes before the first workshop. And she says to me, what's the workshop? What workshop are you starting with? I was like, I'm doing the workshop. She went, James, I told you, you're doing the opening workshop. I was like, oh my God, I don't have a workshop prepared. And I was like, you know what? I got to go find that tree. So I went to the tree again and I sat under it. And as I'm sitting under the tree, nothing was coming to me and I'm just trying to relax. I'm going, it's okay. You're good at improv, whatever if you have nothing, just get up and start talking and it'll all work itself out. And all of a sudden, and I had my book with me, all of a sudden, these questions came to me. It's just like the first one came and I wrote it down. And the second one came and I wrote it down. The third one, fourth one, fifth one. And there were 5 questions. And I was like, okay, that's the workshop. But I still didn't know if it was going to be anything. So I go in, everybody's there, and I open with the meditation. And then I had everybody lay on the floor on mats. And I said, now I'm just going to take you to a nice relaxed state. And then I'm going to pose these 5 questions. And I did it. And oh my God, tears. And it was just, I'm standing up there doing the questions and I'm watching the tears roll down their eyes. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I just kept talking about the question and what it could possibly mean. And when we were done, and it took about an hour to go through the 5 questions the way I was doing it. And when we were done, I read them all in order. And then the rest of the workshop was explain to me what happened. So everybody talked about what happened when they asked the questions. And I was like, wow, that was powerful. Still not thinking anything other than that was that divine intuition saved my ass. That's all I was thinking. This is good. That's great. Fast forward about a year later, and I'm teaching a workshop at Ananda Village in outside of Vegas, and I'm up. There's about 50 people in this workshop, and I had planned a workshop to do because it's actually, I remembered I was teaching a workshop, so I was planned my workshop, and all of a sudden I was like, no, you need to do the 5 questions. Do I have the 5 questions? Where are they? And I'm searching for them, and I did it. I did the 5 questions. And by the time, and it was a whole weekend of workshops, and all people kept saying was their favorite part of the weekend was the 5 questions, and they made me promise I would write a book. And they were all like, we have the 5 questions, but you need to write this as a book. This is such a, so I thought, oh, I will write a book. So, and then I did write a book, and I wrote the 5 questions. Gave it to my publisher, I gave it to my husband, I gave it to a bunch of people. They all had the same point. And the point was, you've written 2 fabulous books. You read a really funny anecdotal spiritual book, and then you did the 5 questions. They really need to be together because I waited too long for the 5 questions. And since you all know me, my reaction was, you're wrong. I have written a book that is revolutionary. No one writes a book like this. And Kevin at one point said to me, no, they don't. And there's a very good reason, because it's taking too long to get to the 5 questions. And I was like, well, and so I gave it to Nora. I said, Nora, read this. You're young. You have a great mind. I want your generation's point of view. I know what the old farts think. What do you think? So she reads it. Now, I haven't told her what they think. She reads it and she says, Dad, I love it. I absolutely love it. But it took me so long to get to the 5 questions that I felt like there were 2 books there. And I was like, you are kidding me. That's your reaction? She went, yeah. And then I was just annoyed. So I put it down. And a few weeks later, Nora had her accident and she passed. And then I couldn't pick it up again. And we went through our first year of ministerial. And when I went away that summer, I decided to look at it again because I had an idea. It was called the 5 questions. You all know, I'll show you now. Can you see my tattoo of the 5? Or is it upside down? Yeah, anyway. So Nora and I had this thing called the 5 kisses. Since she was an infant, I gave her 5 kisses every single night and in the morning, and whenever she'd ask for them, which was at least once a day. And even the day of her accident when she died, I believe she died that day, even the day of her accident, she chased me into the sanctuary trying to get me to give her 5 kisses because I was running late and I just wanted her in the sanctuary with me. And it didn't occur to me, 5 questions, 5 kisses. And then I realized it took Nora 5 days for her body to leave this earth, and that she gave me 5 days to be able to deal with it, because she was hit on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, she passed. So I was like, the 5 questions, the 5 kisses, the 5 days. And what I decided to do was tear the book apart and write the 5-day journey I took from your daughter's been in an accident to releasing her. And I've taken each question, because I used those questions that whole week, because the first question is, why am I here? And I can only tell you, I sat in that emergency room with her saying, why am I here, for hours, asking. And so I then took the 5 questions, and each day I showed the journey of letting go of your daughter in those 5 questions. And now I did what they actually asked me to do in the first place, which is bring the story together so that you can see how the 5 questions can relate to your life no matter what you're going through. So I'm almost done. I'm on question 5. It's been a very difficult journey. I've sobbed and relived this horrific 5 days of my life over and over in this last year, but I'm almost done. And I do think that when this book is finished, it's going to resonate with a lot of people and help a lot of people understand how to use these 5 questions at the most tragic times in your life, and at even the simplest little things, how it can help you. So there's my answer, Lori, to the 5 questions.
Wow, thank you, Dr. James. I'm so looking forward to reading this book, and I know how powerful it's going to be and how supportive it's going to be for people. Does any of the panelists have any questions? Or Gail, have we gotten any questions from the peanut gallery yet?
Well, not yet. And I just wanted to say to all of our guests, you can now see what a powerful and amazing individual Dr. James is. So please, we welcome and he welcomes all of your questions. This is a great opportunity to ask that very special question that maybe you've never dared ask before. I'll be watching for them.
I have a question for Dr. James. I don't know if you call it your mission statement, but your love only, forgive everything, and remember who you are. How did you come to that? How did you create that? Because to me, that's everything. It is everything. So I'm curious how that evolved for you.
You know, simply put, I woke up to it. I woke up one morning and I was lying in bed, and I live in like a fishbowl. Lori knows, she's been to my house. My bedroom is like a fishbowl. It's all glass. And at the time, I didn't have what I now have, are these remarkable shades that go up and down at a certain time. But it was just, you'd wake up and you'd just see this 300-year-old oak tree and all this stuff. And I was just lying there one morning, and I do have a journal next to me for any time I wake up with something I need to remember. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. It's as though, you know, and I'm not like Mr. into channeling and all, though I don't disapprove of it or disagree with it. It's just not my thing. So I don't think like the Archangel Gabriel came and channeled this to me. I believe that I brought it forward in my psyche. And what came up was love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. And so I just wrote it down. And then I was like, wow, that's kind of what my whole ministry, this is my ministry, you know, love only, not easy to do, forgive everything. You know, I'm in the middle of something right now and it's like, I can forgive, but forgive everything doesn't mean to be a doormat. And forgive everything doesn't mean that suddenly I don't remember anything. Because as Maya Angelou says, when someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time. And I've had a history of not believing it the first time. I'm like, my husband says, I'm like an elephant that never remembers. He said, you know, elephants are supposed to never forget. You're like one of those that never remembers anything. Oh, what happened yesterday? And I'm like, I used to be when someone shows you who they are, give them about 1 million chances to prove you wrong. And I never was proved wrong. I never got proved wrong. They kept proving again and again and again. So now, you know, I came up with that wonderful expression, I treat for their highest and furthest. And that is not a mean thing. That is a reality of being kind to yourself. So I can know the high, I can forgive everything, but I also know that who you're expressing right now doesn't fit into my orb of who I want to be and how I want to live my life. But to remember who you are is the big one. Because as you know, and I'll say it, I am God. And I know there's a lot of talk about that, but you know, I am very clear that that is where Ernest Holmes was going, since he said it in the seminar lectures at the end of his life. I knew where he was going, and I'm happy to pick up the mantle from him and say, yep, I'm going to take it into the next realm. And I am God doesn't mean you're not God. I am God does not mean that Jesus wasn't God, and doesn't mean that Buddha wasn't God. It means that I am God says that we are all the same substance made out of this creative essence. And therefore, if that's what I am, and as Rumi says, I am the entire ocean in a drop. But that just means that when I have the entire ocean in a drop, you're there. You're in it with me. I am you. You are me. We are one. So that's the remember who you are. And when I had remember who you are pop up, it wasn't about I am God. It was just don't forget, you know, that you have the chance, you have the opportunity to think right. But then I was like, oh no, that's what remember who you are means. Don't forget. So yeah, there you go. And I'm interested. I feel like I know this answer, but you guys keep introducing yourselves, but you're saying I'm Dale Olansky, but you're not Dale Olansky. You are Reverend Dale Olansky, and you are Reverend Gail Morton, and you are Reverend Laurie Savage, and you are Reverend Cheryl Guest, and you are Reverend Brad Wenker. So I know it's hard at first to be like, I'm Reverend Dale. It's hard to do that. It feels, because even my, you know, Reverend Liza, Reverend Tiffany, but I love walking around the center and hearing them call each other Reverend Tiffany, Reverend Liza. I love when I'm on stage now. I get to say, and here to do our treatment today is Reverend Tiffany. And it's fun because right now they're all one at a time coming in with me. And so I have to introduce them because so far I've introduced Reverend Eric, Reverend Tiffany, Reverend Liza, Reverend Mark, Suzanne's left, Reverend Suzanne, Reverend Andrea. I still have a few that haven't been introduced as Reverend, but I'm going to say that for the rest of this thing with you guys.
Yay, thank you, Dr. James. What our agreement is with Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert is once we finalized our letters of call and employment agreements as ministers with them, then we move into the space of labeling us reverends and moving along that path. So we're still in discussions on how we can all partner. It's a lot to do in the middle of COVID. All of a sudden we have half a dozen awesome new leaders, teachers, and lovers that want to partner in this ministry. So that's the only reason why we're
I can understand that. I can understand, but it's a CSL thing, which I think is so antiquated and stupid. I got to tell you, CSL thinks you don't get to be a minister unless you have a letter of call. No, if a Lutheran minister walked into my church, I wouldn't say I can't call you Reverend because you're not a CSL minister. That is just such ridiculous nonsense. So I get that they can't call you minister Reverend because they don't want to say they don't want to confuse that you're a CSL minister, but you're Reverend Brad, whether you are standing in CSL or wherever you're standing, because as you can see, Lori's got it right next to her on the right. Right, Lori? There it is. That is her license as a minister. I've just noticed that you put that there. That's great.
So did you want to tell us how you really feel about this, Dr. James?
I think I just...
I know, I'm teasing you. As you can tell, Dr. James is never shy about speaking what he sees. And so we love that and appreciate that about you. And
but I also respect
Yes.
Dr. Joe's right to run his center any way he chooses, regardless of what I may think about it.
As do all of we.
And he feels the same way about me and the way I run my center. So that's why we're all autonomous.
That is a very good thing. That is
Yes.
a very good thing. So do anyone else have any questions for Dr. James? Anything you'd like him to speak to?
So we don't have any questions yet from our guests, but I have a question for you, Dr. James, and it's a serious one and yet a fun one at the same time. So what we find in our Wednesday Sensational 6 is that most of our questions have to do about the conditions that we're all experiencing in our world today. So given your theatrical background, I would love it if non-verbally, by motion or by gesture only, if you would act out for us what you believe to be the current condition of the world. And we'll see what we come up with.
Oh, sure. You ready for that?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
That is the current condition of the world right now.
Okay.
Most people are I am appalled, I'm scared, I'm frightened, and frankly, most people are in reaction to what's going on in the world. Our jobs as ministers is to not fall into that trap of reacting to what's going on, but to be the activity of mind that says life is unfolding perfectly regardless of what you may be seeing or experiencing. And Lori brought it up before, but I'll talk about it for a minute. My stage 4 cancer, when I 10 years ago, 2010, when I went to the doctor because I was having a little sore throat over here and it was giving me hoarseness, and for months they kept saying, "You're fine. Stop talking so much. You're fine. You're on stage all the time. You're singing too much." I was like, you know what? I played Jesus in Superstar and I screamed Gethsemane 8 times a week and I never had this problem. So, and don't tell me it's my age because I was only 50. Oh no, I was at 55. And when I went back for the final, I said, you know what? Do a biopsy. You got to do something. So they did a needle biopsy of the little thing little polyp thing. And they went, and the doctor was like, "I can tell by the way the needle went in. It's nothing." He said, "It's in your head." I'm like, I kind of know what's in my head. My head's pretty powerful and it's not creating this, although obviously we create everything. So I come back from my diagnosis and I walked into the doctor's office, and this is one of those Beverly Hills, really crazy, busy doctor's offices. And so you're usually waiting at least half an hour. I walked in and the people behind the desk went, oh, Reverend Mellon. Oh, let us take you. We're taking you to a special room. Do you want some tea? And they were so nice to me. I was like, I am completely doomed here. Something is really bad because they've never been this attentive. And then the doctor comes in, brilliant doctor, surgeon. He walked in and he went, so he opens up his pad and he goes, so talk to me again about when did this start? And I went, David, cut to the chase. I want the exact thing that you know you're going to tell me when you're done going through all this. And he just looked at me and went, you have stage 4 cancer. And I went, what's stage 5? And he didn't laugh. I laughed. I said, I'm kidding. He says, it's not a funny matter. He said, you only have a few months. He said, it was March. He said, you could be gone by August. I was like, gone? Like Tahiti? What do you mean, where am I gone? And he was like, he's like, seriously, James, he always calls me Reverend James. Seriously, Reverend James, you have stage 4 cancer. It's gone into your lymph nodes. Blah, blah, blah. We can't find a tumor. Until we find the tumor, it's going to keep wreaking havoc. And we will do our best to find the tumor. In my head, I'm going, what do you mean, do your best? Just find the damn tumor, take it out. And so my reaction, because of my study, because of the minister that I was, even at that point, I was like, no, I'm not going to react to all of this. I'm not going to react to you're going to be gone in August. First of all, the kids' birthday's in August. I'm not dying in the middle of their birthday. I'm like, no, none of this is real. And you know your mind's more powerful than whatever is going on in your body. And I went right to it. And I got in the car, I'm driving, we went by myself because I was expecting to be told I had that something, I didn't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting stage 4 cancer. Get in the car, I'm driving over the hill, and my phone's like ringing off the hook from Kevin, because Kevin's called the doctor while I was there. He is out of town to say, could you tell me what happened? And they went, I'm sorry, we can't. You'll have to talk to your husband, which made him insane. And so and finally I just had to pull over on Mulholland Drive and pick up the phone. And it wasn't that I was worried about me. I was worried about my children, about Kevin, because, when they tell you have stage 4 cancer, the next thing they tell you is the 75,000 things you're now about to do, and that your life is on hold. And I'm running a brand new church. I'd only had the church for 7 years. And so I pick up the phone to tell Kevin. I was like, hey, and he goes, what did the doctor tell you? And I went, well, and then I couldn't speak. I'm sobbing. And he's like, James, speak. Tell me what it is. And I can't tell him. And I said, I have cancer. He said, okay, well, that's not that bad. What stage is it? I said, stage 4. And oh my God, he completely lost it. And there was silence. And it was just, I said, Kevin, it's going to be okay. He goes, stage 4, it's going to be okay, really? I said, it's going to be okay. I said, when you get home, we'll talk about it. And so then the journey began. But I have to be honest with you, as annoying as it was, because Lori was around during all of that. It was, first of all, you got to go tell your congregation. You have to tell your administrator. You have to tell your children. You got to tell everybody what's going to happen, because in a week, they're going to turn me into Frankenstein, cut my throat open, and take all these lymph nodes out. And I'm like, they're going to know. Someone's going to know something's up with me. And especially when you're going to go through chemo and radiation for months, and you're probably going to, well, no. They said I was going to lose my hair, but I said, you can do anything you want to me. I'm not losing my hair. And they were like, well, you're getting cisplatin, so your hair's going and you should shave your head. I was like, I am not getting, do you see this hair? This hair is gorgeous. It's not going anywhere through this whole process. And they were amazed. They called me their miracle patient, because I'd come in every week after chemo and have this full head of hair. And I always made sure it was like beautifully blown. And they'd be like, wow, still have it. You still have it all the way through. And I lost a little bit in the back, and then it came in pure black. And I was like, ooh, I should have lost my hair. If it's all going to come back black and not gray, that could have been a fun thing. Anyway, hindsight 2020. So I went through the whole ordeal. Lori was, I think, in the audience when I gave that talk.
I was.
Remember what I did? Because I knew there was a lesson to be taught right at the top of this. And the lesson was this. You all think you understand this science and this teaching. However, you understand it until you have to actually use it. You understand it until you actually have it be personal for you. And so I got up in front of the congregation that Sunday. My surgery was the next day. And I said, I met a man last week who told me this story. And I told them the whole story of my story. I met this man who had a problem, and they told him he had stage 4 cancer. And everybody's just sitting there going, yeah, yep, that's how it works. And I know that, and this man is going to be fine, and blah, 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 and because I believe, and they're all like, yep, that's it. And then I said, and now I don't want you to feel as though I have misled you, but that man is me. And the entire room, they just went, I said, and now I want you to understand that I told it to you that way because you knew the truth when it wasn't me. And now that it's me, you need to know that same truth, because I am not interested in your pity. I'm not interested in your sadness. I'm not interested in your worry or doubt. All I need from you is what you knew before you knew it was me. And it was a great journey, and it was not fun, but it was one of my highlights was the night of the Tony Awards. And I was in bed, so sick. I mean, I weighed 138 pounds, and I'm like, now I'm 165 and I'm still fairly thin. I lost 30 pounds. And the doctors kept saying, we need to put a feeding tube in. And I was like, well, no, I can't deal with that. No. And they're like, you have to promise us that when you go below 140, you let us put a feeding tube in. I went, fine, because I didn't think I would. And then I went below 140. So then I said to them, well, we need to reevaluate this because I actually lie about my height. I'm not 6 feet. So your 140 was based on my 6-foot frame. I'm really 5'11". So I think we could probably go to 130. Everybody laughed except Kevin, who said, you're getting a feeding tube. And I was like, nope, my body, my choice. So I didn't get a feeding tube. I went down to about 132, 131, whatever, and then started going back up. So, you know your body. So anyway, so that's really the journey of this whole thing. And on the night of the Tonys, I was laying in bed, barely being able to, I'd been just so sick. And all of a sudden, everybody's in the living room screaming. And I was like, unbelievable. I am going through stage 4 cancer, and they're having a Tony party, and they're screaming in the living room. And Kevin comes running in. He goes, James, you got to come in. You got to come in. We want to show you something. He's like, Kevin, because one of our singers, one of my students was up for a Tony Award. He said, you got to come in. Levi Christ just won the Tony. I was like, oh, I'm so happy for him. And no, I'll watch it on reruns. He said, no, come in. We backed it up. And I went in, and he thanked me on the Tonys, which of course then my phone was blowing up, and my emails, everybody, I want to thank my spiritual director, my spiritual leader, my mentor. And, and then he went into practitioner work the year later with me. And I have to tell you, that moment, and this is something what consciousness does, we don't even know it. My reaction to that moment was, get the hell out of bed. You know what? He's winning Tony Awards and you're laying in bed. You've done your work. You're feeling better. Get out of bed. And I threw on my robe, and I was only trying to walk around the pool once. That was my big goal. Walk around the pool once. And I got my robe on, and while they're all in there drinking and having fun watching the rest of the Tonys, I'm slowly taking little steps around the pool. And finally, I get towards the side of the pool that's in the living room, and Kevin sees me, and he comes running out. He's going, what are you doing? I said, I am walking. He said, you're supposed to tell me. What if you fell in the pool? And I said, I imagine I would swim to the side and hold on until you noticed. So anyway, that was my journey with cancer. I came through it, and I'm fine today. There's not been a thing, no cancer for 10 years, and there will not be.
And very, very much like what we shared earlier about the journey in ministerial with the loss of Nora, to witness that as a congregant, as somebody within the church, such a strong leader that gasp lasted about 2 seconds, and everybody fell in line with the truth. It was amazing to see that whole congregation just say, yes, we know you are going to be fine. And week after week, no matter how skinny or how weak, or if he had just gone through surgery, he got up on that stage and shared every bit of it with us, and led us through the journey in such a beautiful way. As you know, where's God in this? Every week was, where's God in this? How has God shown up this week? Just no matter what.
Yeah.
And that no matter what is so key, that you train your mind in such a way that reaction is no longer an option. Going back to the vision statement, love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. That is so cellular for me now. And sometimes it really just sucks. Like something comes up and you want to react to it, and it's like, oh, you can't anymore. I can't even work up a reaction usually. It's like, no, I just need to respond from love only, forgive everything, and remember who I am. And it is a life-changing vision statement that I've taken as my own. So I really want to thank you for that. And thank you for being with us today. An hour was not enough, but we do have to close, and I'm going to pass it off to Cheryl now to do that for us. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you all. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for letting me relive so much of my life.
Well, it's time to close it up. God, this has been such a great, it should have been a 2-hour show today. We could have kept going. It's so wonderful to have you here, Dr. James. I mean, you've touched every one of our lives, and gosh, what a beautiful statement. What a beautiful thing to see and hear all this great stuff from you. All right, so I just like everybody that's out there in Zoom land, or whatever you want to call it, just to remember that this is, if you would please go to the center's website and think about making a donation. As Dr. James said, if you're fed here, then you should pay here. This is where you get your tithing in. So if you're spiritually fed, we'd offer you to please come and donate on the site, so we can keep doing this work and we can keep providing all these things that we're doing during this downtime. But it's, what we're doing is basically for free, but it's not free for us to produce this and put this on and everything. So please, if you would, go on and donate on our site. It'd be fabulous. And as far as announcements, this week we have a really full week of live streams programs on, and it's starting out with, since today is Wednesday and that's us, Sensational 6, then on Thursday we're going to have conversations with Reverend Charles and Reverend Catherine, oh gosh, I'm going to slaughter this name, Economo, how do you say it? Economo? Can you?
Catherine Economo.
Economo, I was right first, okay. And then on Friday, and that's at 10 o'clock. Everything that I'm telling you about starts at 10 o'clock and it's live stream. And if you can't catch it then, we do put it on our YouTube station as well. And then on Friday, we have Reverend Charles is Love on Life. It's a recurring series that he's starting brand new this week. And then on Sunday, we have a very exciting lineup for the Sunday service, because we have Michael Hadley, who's one of our singers at the center, and Scott Smith have put together a beautiful program of music that's going to be enhancing what the schedule or what the talk is going to be on Sunday. And we really hope you'll tune in for that. And then also, just a little heads up, we have our Power of 8 is starting up. And please go online and register and sign up. And we will be giving you dates and times and everything else as it unfolds. Right now, we're in the process, but we want to make sure we have enough people to even start, right? And then on Sunday, also after Sunday, we're going to start our virtual prayer room, where we're going to have, you can actually come in and do minute miracles with a practitioner. We'll be breaking you out into a room, and you can just come in. And it's from 11 to 11:30 after the service, from 10 to 11. And remember, everything I've spoken about is strictly 10 o'clock. Be there or be square, whatever, So, and also then next Wednesday, we'll be back again as well. So then I'm just going to now, because we're really short on time, I'm going to close this out with a closing prayer. And of course, I'm going to be hyper aware of the fact that Dr. James is listening. But I'm open at the top. I'm ready. I'm in that complete consciousness, that consciousness on demand, which was drilled into us, but it's not really something that's a negative thing. It's a positive thing. So please just get comfortable. whatever makes you into that space of purity and light, just in the beauty of the essence of the moment, and knowing that there is only one source of all creation, that everything is God. I am God, you are God. We are all God, and we're all expressing and being a part of this wonderful, beautiful energy of the universe. We are entirely, completely connected, always. And I am so grateful for the beautiful vibrational energy that has emanated from this program today, that beautiful sense of love and joy. We have just been immersed in the beautiful teachings and the beautiful things that have occurred during this program. And that I am so grateful for all of the good and all of the joy and the laughter and the tears, everything unfolded in perfect divine right order. And everyone present today, I feel their energy. I feel the love, I feel the joy, and I feel that light just radiating out, just touching my soul and immersing me in that beauty and in that joy. And I am so full of gratitude for each and every person here. And I'm so eternally grateful to Reverend James and Dr. James and everything that he has given and provided to each and every one of us that brought us to this place, that we are this powerful team here ready to take this teaching forward and be the light in the world. We are now ready. And so I release my word full of joy and gratitude to the law, knowing this is already done, that everything is unfolding and is ready and willing to open and express through this beautiful source of power. So join me in saying, and so it is. So we'd like to thank you for joining us and see you next week. Bye.